You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo or honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're a real heat seeker out there, you can try spicy ghost pepper, only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. Listen, I'm going to dare you to do it. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs that you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and then grab a few more napkins and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's.
And welcome back to another episode of the Golden Blocks podcast, the Bearcast. We are back here after the Oregon game on a Monday night. I am Rob Huang, one of your co-hosts, along with my other co-host, Andy, who's here after his journey into Duck territory, where he spent the weekend. Andy, how was your weekend?
I'm alive. I'm happy to say I'm alive. Oregon was a total blast. I loved going out into Eugene on Friday night and getting to experience their version of Kips. Yes, I was at their version of Kips as a 30-year-old. So that was fun. I got to see Avi for a little bit. That was great. I want to give a shout out because I know these Oregon Ducks fans are listening. I won't be able to list them all, but at least Ian, Chandler, Janoff, Stefan, Doran, Mike. I'm going to forget someone. Calvin, Brett, all these guys that are pretty diehard Oregon fans. There's about 18 of them, all in jerseys, and then me, the Cal fan. And then full in a section with one other Cal fan at the very bottom. And every time Cal would do something well, I would stand up and look down at the other guy and just like point at him. And it was like one of those bonds formed in enemy territory. But I honestly think I'm going to go to the Oregon game every year because the flight up to Portland was super affordable. The rental car, all that's really affordable. The biggest disappointment was that we didn't travel that well. Because when I was up there in 2007, we traveled really, really well. We had basically like 2 sections. And we just had like a really top corner section this time. And so that was a little bit of a bummer. But, Oregon fans couldn't have been any nicer, which makes me think that we've been really not competitive in the rivalry, so they've softened up. Because when I was there in 2007, somebody got arrested trying to fight me. I didn't do anything. They just came at me for wearing a Cal jersey. And then in 2009, I had some other issues where people were kind of like really, really intense. And I know it's that way for the Washington games. So one of my buddies actually grabbed me and then paraded me around and started going, "We got a Bears fan here." And then was like trying to get Oregon fans to start yelling at me. And everyone was like, "Good luck, have a good time." So it was great. I had a total blast. I obviously took full advantage of Cal being in the lead for the first 2 quarters and then being competitive. And every time, the Ducks fans would be like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Oh, y'all have never seen the defense before? Well, what's up? We're here." I was super obnoxious. I was dancing in the stairs every single time we did something well. The touchdown, obviously crazy. So really, really good time. And Autzen is just such a hard place to play. So doing well, Rob. How about yourself?
I'm going to also point out that probably the reason we traveled well in 2007 was because we were also the 6th best country in the nation. So I think that had something to do with that, at least back in that year, at the very least. So, but I mean, I watched the game from home. I was screaming my head off as I was running the game threads when we were up, and I said this at halftime, and at least to myself, I was just like, if we don't score more points from these turnovers, we're not going to win this game. Lo and behold, we got 3 turnovers and only 7 points off of it, and that pretty much was the downfall for us in the second half of the game. But we can talk about the game in a little bit. First off, we have some housekeeping. So we've said that if you write a comment for us about the podcast, we will read it on the air. So Andy currently has all of our reviews from Apple Podcasts, because I believe Apple Podcasts is the only podcast service you can use to rate podcasts. And a lot more people have reviewed us, given us 5 stars. And Andy is going to now read the comments. So, Andy, to you.
All right, let's get into it. We'll see my reading comprehension skills. It's like going back to 3rd grade. So, first one, September 25th, 2019, from Son of Ander the Third, who I think I may know. 5 stars, dope show, great Cal analysis and insight. Thank you for quenching my Cal football thirst. Go Bears. Go Bears indeed. The next one is from Robert VW on the same day. 5 stars, great podcast. Rob and Andy provide a thorough analysis of the previous and upcoming games in a thoughtful and realistic manner. Before the Ole Miss game, I was delighted by their tailgate ticket stats, which made the travel a lot more fun knowing many Cal fans would be at the game. That is a shout out for you, Rob. Great work. This one is from September 30th, Tony Yam, 24. Perfect for all Cal fans. 5 stars. The show is a must listen for all Cal fans. They do a great job of detailing and analyzing the games. Also provide some optimism with the perfect amount of good old-fashioned Cal cynicism mixed in. Thank you so much, Tony. We greatly appreciate that. The next one is from G. Jordan Ray on October 1st. Loves the pod. The necessary voice of Cal fandom. Thank you so much, G. Jordan Ray. The next one is from Brandino Duff on October 2nd, 2019. It is titled The Best Time of the Year. Accessible, thoughtful, and fun. Great recaps and previews of Cal football give a deeper and sometimes more personal insight into the schemes, planning, and strategies of the team each week. High football IQ not necessary to follow along with the greater themes of discussion.
I don't know what to say about that one, though. High football IQ not needed.
Yeah, I think that's a nice reflection on my skill set.
Both of our skill sets.
The next one, Cal Bears are great. Oh, I agree. From October 3rd, 2019. Best Cal Bears podcast out there. Says so much about Cal, who I've grown up loving. Love the perspective, and is the only good podcast about college sports. Keep up the amazing work. While I'm sure that's not true, we greatly appreciate it. And then the last one here from Golden Bear 92, October 6, 2019. Very recent, yesterday. Great Cal Bears coverage. I enjoy the well-informed and intelligent breakdowns and analysis of Cal football games. I always learn inside knowledge about Cal and football in general with every episode. Keep up the great work. Go Bears. So that was awesome. I know there was a lot there. We'll do a better job of keeping consistencies with it. But thank you all for taking the time to review us. We greatly appreciate it. And if you have a good review, a bad review, or just want to leave a comment, we'll read it. And we appreciate everyone who listens.
I would just want to echo that. Thank you so much for however many years we've been doing this now, and the people listening. Even though you don't, put a like or a rating or a comment down, still greatly appreciate you. We just love you listening to our voices. It may put you to sleep, but hey, maybe that's our job for the week for you. Our voices put you to sleep. Maybe you need it after cardiac Cal games that we've seen over the last however many seasons now.
We are the meditation, Rob. We are the meditation. And don't you dare age me by saying how long we've been doing this for. There's no reason to go there.
We are the same age, so it's not like much changes. But all right, let's get right into it. We have a bunch of questions from our listeners, and so I think people have liked our little setup of going through these questions and answering them. If they overlap with some of the points that we wanted to talk about regarding the Oregon game, then we'll get to it. So we're going to answer the questions, then we'll go into the Oregon game. But before that, a brief recap of the Oregon game. Cal takes on number 13 Oregon in Autzen. This would be the last time that Cal faces Oregon quarterback Justin Herbert. Thank goodness he's finally gone. Cal loses 7-17. Cal actually took the lead early in the first quarter, 7-0 10-0 after a 22-yard pass from Devon Modster to Christopher Brown Jr. This was after an Ashton Davis pick of Justin Herbert in the end zone. That led to Cal leading 7-0, finally, and held them scoreless for the rest of the half. Third quarter comes around. Camden Lewis hits a 28-yard field goal to make it 7-3. Without a minute and 30 seconds left in the third, Cyrus Habibi Likio pushes in a 1-yard run, and that pushes the lead, or that gives them the go-ahead score, and Oregon goes up 10-7. In the fourth quarter, 1-yard pass from Jalen Redd from Justin Herbert leads Oregon up to 17-7, and the Bears never got a chance to score again. Overall, first down stats, Cal 12, Oregon 26. Net rushing, Cal 66, Oregon 190. Cal with a measly 2.2 per rush. Passing, Cal with Devin Modster with 190, 17 completions on 34 attempts with 2 interceptions. And Justin Herbert, 214 yards, 20 completions on 33 attempts with 1 touchdown, or 1 interception. Both quarterbacks only threw 1 touchdown today. Some defensive stats for you. Coin Deng led all tacklers with 7 tackles, 7 solo and 5 assisted, 1 tackle for loss and 1 fumble recovery. Luke Beckett was second with 9 tackles and 1 forced fumble. Evan Weaver, 6 tackles, 5 solo, 1 assisted, and 1 tackle for loss, but with also 1 breakup. And that was pretty much it. The Bears forced 2 fumbles. Realistically, they only forced 1. The other one was just Troy Dye just trying to put the ball towards his body and just totally losing the ball out of his hands as he did it. But the Bears as a team with 6 tackles for loss and 1 sack on them, and also the 1 interception for Ashton Davis, which was returned for 31 yards. So there you have it. That was pretty much the game. Some of the other notables from that game was that we lost our starting center, Mike Safell, to what looks like a foot injury. They're listing it at least on the broadcast, they listed it as a lower leg injury. He was helped off the field and from the sideline was taken off via a cart. We also lost Valentino Daltoso in the second half. His status is up in the air as of right now. I believe Coach Wilcox probably would have talked about it today at the media availability, but I have not seen the video yet, so I do not know what that is. I'm unsure if Daltoso played after he came off with that injury for a bit too, so he might have gone back in. But from what I did not see him. So that's it, and we'll get into the questions. Andy, the first question for you. I have been really impressed by Trayvon Clark. Do you think he can sustain this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. He has to be, up there in regards to maybe, the player that I'm most pleased with on the offensive side of the football, outside of maybe, Jake Curhan. There's few options, I think, that have been as consistently good as he's been. And there's only, I think, optimism for him being even better. So, do I think he can sustain it? Yes. I've said this before, but the skill set at receiver this year is just a different breed than we had last year. The blocking is better. The physicality can be better. The separation is better. We don't always get them the ball, but when we do, there's space. Where last year it just seemed like we got clamped down so much. And I could single out some players, but I don't really want to. I just think that Trayvon Clark has been as advertised, if not even better, because he was a little quiet coming out of fall camp regarding, I remember kind of asking a couple of the guys, how's he looked so far? And they're like, oh, he's getting there. But it wasn't a matter of this kid's going to be a star or anything like that. And what we've seen is someone that is super dependable. I honestly think my own perspective is a little bit limited because I was sitting up in the 69th row of Autzen Stadium, and it was hard to exactly see, but I know that there were a couple of catches that he made in the game that were just ridiculous. And it's very exciting to see it in person and see him do that against what could arguably be a top 5, if not the best defense in college football this year, which is kind of crazy to say. So I have plenty of optimism, but I am also, a disclaimer, I'm someone that runs high on optimism as well.
Yeah, I think Trayvon's one of those guys that, along with Kikoa, that, going into the season, we said, these guys have to produce. If these guys don't produce, we're going to struggle a lot. And the production, by production, I guess we did mean the stats. But at the same time, are they getting enough separation? Are they getting open? That's the big part. Because if they're getting open, that gives the quarterback an opportunity to throw to them. We're not going to have the NFL type quarterback that can throw into college tight windows. Like, we're going to need to either throw them open or them be open to get, some yards after the catch. You're seeing that. It's just a matter of, as you said, the delivery from the quarterback to the wide receivers. That's the biggest thing. That's the question mark in this entire formula. So we'll see how that moves going forward. I mean, as of right now, we've had games where when Kikoa was great. And now with Trayvon, when he's in, I feel like he's like a go now. Like, he understands the playbook fully. I think coming in the summer, it took him a little bit to get into the groove of things and learn the playbook and learn his role. And I saw him get frustrated a couple times early on in the season just because of, maybe he wasn't getting out of his breaks right. Maybe he was getting, stuffed at the line, or, maybe he was open and the quarterback just wasn't getting the ball to him and he was getting frustrated. But judging from this Oregon game, like, he had fun. The ball was thrown to him, I think, 11 times. And the dude made catch after catch after catch. And I feel like he's going to be that guy. He has that feeling of a Kanawai Noah for me. He has really good hands, and his body control is really great. And I do feel like we're going to be throwing... all in all, we have a lot of possession receivers. Like, Trayvon's good when you throw it anywhere in his direction. We all know what Jordan Duncan can do when you throw in his direction. And, of course, if we get Kikoa back, too, like, all three guys are pretty great at catching the ball as long as it's within their catch radius. So I feel like once we get everyone healthy, and maybe this bye week is the perfect time for that. But, yeah, that's my thought on the question. But we shall move on, and that leads perfectly into our next question. How do the Bears make the most of this bye week? Player recovery, fine-tuning the offensive playbook, depth chart reevaluation, and the follow-up addendum question to that would be, is Garbers the difference?
Yeah, really good question. I think that I would love to clarify the last bit about Garbers being the difference. I think the bye week is important for two reasons. Primarily, health is the first. So what seems like the entire offensive line, some of which, like Gentle Williams and Will Craig, we're not getting back, but everybody else, hopefully we're getting back. And then just like being able to get reps on the O-line for some of these guys that came in during the Oregon game. Like, we got to get these guys getting experience, because it just looks like, we're getting killed with injuries this year on the offensive line. And then in the same token, it also is a lot about Modster just getting more and more comfortable with the playbook, more comfortable with his receivers, and just and I'm sure I'm probably answering not only one of my own talking points, but also probably another question. I think every single person, so I talked to, I was obviously with this big crew of Oregon fans, so I think I forgot to shout one out. So Bobby, here's your shout out. But I was talking with all these guys, including Bobby, and they all said that, the Cal quarterback looked good. It wasn't like they saw a quarterback that they were like, he's not going to progress well. They all kind of came away from the game without me prompting anything, saying that, it just needed more reps. And if you really think about it, like, second game in a Cal uniform, there are throws there that he just overthrew, but he made the right reads. And to me, that's like way more important. I really believe that Modster has a lot of potential here. If he can just rein in a little bit of his accuracy, especially against some softer defenses. I think this whole Garbers thing, and like Garbers being the savior of Cal season, I'm not trying to discredit Garbers again, but I just don't think that storyline will necessarily persist, though maybe the way that some people are projecting it to. I think Monster is more than capable at the quarterback position. He's got a really strong arm. It's just a matter of like making some throws, like the short throws he needs to be more accurate with, and then some of the long throws he's just putting a little too much on the ball and he's overthrowing his targets. But he's making those throws and he doesn't seem scared, and he's not turning the ball over. It's not like he's throwing like potential picks. Even the picks that he had, Hail Mary, and then he threw into tight coverage and it got popped up in the air. Definitely don't make that throw into tight coverage. But, the stat lines aren't necessarily being too friendly. I don't think we have a huge quarterback issue here. And so, therefore, my big thing about this week and then the week of preparation for Oregon State is rest, get your head right, and then study as much as you possibly can and be ready to take advantage of one of, the worst defenses in the conference and make a statement out here that we're going to move to 5-2 and this Cal team isn't to be messed with. So, I hope that answers it well with the Garber stuff, because I'm not sure it totally did, but I appreciate the question.
I guess our next thing regarding that is, how do the Bears make the most of the bye week? Is it player recovery, fine-tuning the offensive playbook, or depth chart reevaluation? And I think the question's asking, like, those are just examples, but what, in your mind, would the Bears need to do? Or I guess you kind of answered this.
How do we make the most of the bye week?
Yeah. Yes. How to make the most of the bye week. I think that's the question. So you answered the last question about, is Garbers the difference? But I guess you did kind of answer this, huh? Am I just talking in circles? I might be talking in circles. Let's just move on. The final two questions that we got before, there's one like a general college football statement, which is, let me read it for you first. So, what are the chances we go to Brash after the bye week? If not, what kinds of changes need to be made to the offense to cater them to Monster? The next question was, with a lackluster performance by Monster at Oregon, any chance that the coaching staff considers development for the future and leverages the 2 weeks to prep Brash to play against OSU? I will answer the last question first for you, and then I'll toss it back to you for your thoughts. But first thing is, with the performance of Monster, do they consider development for the future? Okay, let's think about this. Garbers is a redshirt sophomore. Monster's a redshirt junior. So if you were to play Brash this year, and let's go the two routes. Let's say he comes good. Then your options next year would most likely mean one of those two guys would probably transfer, or do you have another quarterback like battle on your hands going into another season? Which in this case, you're kind of hoping that your offense is the anchor of the team and not your defense, because you will be reloading so many people on the defensive side of the ball. So that totally derails like your projection of how you kind of want the team to be balanced and held down in terms of experience. Plus, on top of that, like, let's say we head into next year, then you have seniors like Trayvon Clark and Kiko Crawford and Jeremiah Hawkins, and you're going to have to be playing him with a true sophomore quarterback. Like, I definitely just don't think that that's how this coaching staff is going to work, especially with how the season's gone so far and how much hope they have for the rest of the season. I think you have to go with the experienced guy. The second thing is, you can't change the Brash because we don't know how many reps he's getting. If you're saying Monster his performance was lackluster, you also have to look at how many reps he's had. Because yes, during fall camp it was pretty much split half and half, but probably like the last week of camp when you saw Garbers kind of take the QB1 role, you saw Monster take a little bit less snaps. And in game week, Monster did talk about this. I think it was last week in his press thing. They asked him what's the biggest difference. between backup and the starting quarterback, and he's like, it's pretty much the reps. He said it's like an 80-20 split. So 80% of the first team snaps are going to QB1. And QB2, who was monster over the last 2 weeks, before the Oregon game, or before the injury of the ASU game. So I guess the 2 weeks of the Ole Miss game and the ASU game, he was the QB2, so he was only getting 20% of the reps every week. And then you saw this first week, he comes away with 80% of those snaps. And look at his improvement from the ASU game to this game. You can't say that there won't be more improvement. We don't know, like, is it going to be an exponential improvement? Is it going to be just some fine-tuning and maybe his timing with his receivers get better? Regardless, there's going to be better stuff you see from him as he gets more of those first-team snaps. Because if he was only getting second-team or third-team snaps, like, he has no repertoire with any of his wide receivers, with any of the timing, and then the added factor to this is that entire banged up offensive line. Like, why would you want to throw a true freshman quarterback out there basically to get destroyed? Sometimes you want a junior or a sophomore guy who's been in the weight room for a bit that can take some of those hits and be able to withstand it. With a true freshman like Brash, I mean, the dude's got talent for sure, and I've seen him throw in camp, and he can make every throw, and he has really good arm talent, but he's still like an 18-year-old kid. Like, his body just hasn't been developed enough to be able to take the hits that most likely Monster is going to have to take throughout the rest of the season if our O-line, is consistently getting hit with the injury bug. So that's my take. I will toss it to you if you want to answer this question.
Yeah, I mean, not much to say on top of that. I think you hit all really good points. I think we would have heard more about Spencer Brash now and in more recent weeks if he was really ready to beat out a redshirt junior who is the starter, by the way. And then I don't see any reason why we should make the move. I think that competition is inaccurately casting. Like, we're casting judgment based on the quarterback when we should really just be observing the quality of the competition. And I'm totally fine if things look bad against Oregon State. Let's rally together and we can all freak out then. But until then, I just don't see the reason. And the reason why is because, like, why are you going to sacrifice that red shirt? Like, let's say that Brash is really the answer. And you look at this team, like, to me, like, let's look at this like a baseball evaluation. When you look at, like, wins above replacement, do you really think that with this defense that the difference here between how we finished the season, we're not competing for the Pac-12 title anymore. We know that's pretty much entirely out of the question. It's not theoretically entirely out, but for all intents and purposes, it's out. So then what are you really wasting that red shirt for? Are you chasing 9 wins in a higher bowl game? Like, if the difference is 1 win, do you make that move? If it's 8 regular season wins versus 9 regular season wins, but then you lose an entire season of what could be at that point, if they're really that good, what you would envision to be an NFL ready quarterback, you just don't sacrifice the future for the now. In my mind. So while I think it's a reasonable question to ask, I just think that there's a lot of good reasons maybe like why you wouldn't go that direction. I also will tease out our bi-week podcast, which is going to come out in a little bit later here. And we talked with a former Cal football player who mentioned that in his time at Cal, reps were split out 80-20, starter to backup. So to Rob's point, there probably hasn't been as many reps, and the reps that Brash is getting right now, I can almost guarantee it, are against the scout team. And so he's not taking reps against the takers. With my experience with the football team, when we had Bridgeford, who was the big hotshot prospect, he just ran scout team all season long, and we still have the same conversations and all that good stuff. But he ran scout team. He doesn't go against the ones. So I think all that sort of combines to make a pretty compelling reason why that wouldn't happen. It easily could happen, because obviously we're not totally in the know, but I think you would hear it from the inside reporters. Like, we would get the whispers at this point that, outside of what we heard in fall camp, which was great. I'm not trying to, I'm super excited about Spencer Brash, but I just don't think it's coming.
Yeah, I don't think he's ready to play right now. And this is all going off of what I saw. And granted, it's already been over a month since I've seen these guys in practice, because the week of the game and the week before, the last week of spring training, fall camp, the media weren't allowed to, it wasn't an open practice. So, judging from what I saw, he looked like a freshman quarterback. He had his issues, and he was struggling to learn the playbook. The biggest thing here is, one of the guys asked, what kind of changes need to be made to the offense to cater them to Modster? None to Modster. But if you're going to throw Brash out there, you need to dumb down the playbook a lot. Like, very, very big time, where it's just 1-2 read and throw away, or you can't even run any complex RPOs where he has to make decisions. It's pretty much you either hand it off or you throw it to this guy, if not this guy, if not, throw it away. And then that totally changes the dynamic of what we're trying to do in terms of our play design. And that takes away so much from the playbook that is already pretty diminished just because of how depleted our O-line is and how much time our quarterback can get to sit in the pocket and go through his reads. So, yeah, it's one of those things where, yeah, I can see why you'd think that, but you know what? The other side of this is that now that Spencer Brash is the backup, as Coach Wilcox said, he's getting 20% of the number 2 snaps, which means he's getting snaps now and not just playing on the scout team or whatnot. So, we're already prepping for the future in that way. And if we were to throw out Brash now, oh, Lord, God knows what happens in the offseason, and then it goes into this quarterback battle, and you see quarterbacks leave and all that, and our entire roster buildup so far of you want pretty much a quarterback a class, that could easily blow up in our faces. And we're already struggling to recruit quarterbacks as it is. It could be bad.
Just to kind of, we might face that scenario anyways, Rob. I mean, realistically, if Brash, let's say we continue to play out this kind of theoretical situation, but let's say Brash is as good as this question kind of portends him to be, then you're gonna see that camp battle, and there's totally that possibility. I mean, that if Garber's lost his position, that he'd be like, I'm out. So that is, it's not one of those things that I necessarily say that it goes away, but I do think that you definitely complicate issues by doing it now, because you're talking about probably I don't know what Monster would think about that, and then it just starts to get real muddy. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, same here. I guess we have one more question, but I want to leave that as the ending question, just because it's a broader question, especially, and it's about the SB 206, which is the new law that was passed in the state of California that allows guys to talk about or to for endorsements and all that. So I'm thinking we'll save that to the end as a little wrap up question. But let's jump in straight into the Oregon game. So, do you got any points you want to start off with, Andy? I'll let you start.
Oh, of course. I definitely burned a few of them, as I have been known to do. But here's my favorite one. My favorite thing about watching this Cal team play is they get the opposing team to play their style of football. And to me, that is the beauty of this team, is Cal gets their opponents to play their game. Cal got Washington to play their game. Cal gets Ole Miss pretty much to play their game. Cal gets Arizona State to play their style of football. It's Cal dictates what the game is going to be like, and then it's kind of like a coin flip if we're going to win it. And that is truly the beauty of the Wilcox era, is that we were not able to do that with Dykes. Dykes would have some games where we could come in and kind of run our system and it would work well, and then we'd have other games where we try to run our system and people would take us out of it. Sometimes we'd get lucky, like against that Utah win, where we would like win in a different way with our defense. But mostly when we got taken out of our element, everything kind of went off the rails. My favorite thing is we take everybody else off of the rails and then force them to play our style of football. And that's what I thought we did so well, was that the entire Oregon fans were stunned for a lot of this football game and quiet for the majority of the first half. And they're looking at me like, who's this Cal fan out here telling us, like, we've never seen defense before. And I don't think they were ready for the team, and I don't think they were ready for the Andy experience either. And so for me, that's what's fun. We can make SC look ugly. We can make these teams like Washington State. We can just turn it into our style of football game, and some teams just can't hang with that. So credit to our team for getting teams to kind of play to their terms and then dictate the will of the game. It's one of these things that I'm pretty unfamiliar with over the last decade, and I think it's a huge underlying strength of this team.
All right, let's keep on the optimism trail for a bit. Here's my point. The Takers are back, baby. Oh my goodness. Oh, it was so much fun to watch them play. I do feel like what we were saying up until this point was true. It was this thing of they how good the secondary is. They want to sit back. They want to let the freshman quarterback, like we played against Shane Daniels or whoever we played, like they're playing the Takers for the first time. Let's sit back and see if they want to really test us. And that's kind of what they did over the first few games. And then you go into this game where you're playing a guy against Herbert, who you've played multiple times now. And you know what he's capable of. So they were aggressive with their wide receivers. I think the caveat here also is that I think they went aggressive because they knew so many of their wide receivers, like Schooler and Pittman, this was their first game back from injury. So basically they played aggressive with them, saying, we know you're back from injury. Let's see if you can go and just hit the ground running. Pittman did a little bit. I mean, he had some amazing catches despite our DBs just being draped all over them. But a lot of times, like, they just didn't have the places to throw. And Herbert with the ball, slinging it, gets it picked off. Almost gets it picked off twice by Weaver too, and when Weaver's in coverage. And if it's not for him, like with his back turned, I think one of those PI calls was that. Another one hit off his helmet. And if he turned around, and I think those are picks. There was also one in the end zone where he got his hands up but just barely got his hands up, just like a second too late, and the ball just sailed into the end zone. But of course, I mean, it wasn't a touchdown. I think it's just those types of plays where now the DBs are playing a little bit more aggressive now because, one, they have to, and two, they know who they're playing. So they're just used to playing those guys.
Yeah, the Weaver play, he almost had that. He almost, he was in deep coverage on a couple plays. Like, I think he was going out with a tight end, and he was way downfield, and he definitely didn't turn his back in time for the ball, but he was in perfect position anyways and prevented the throw. And then I think another time he got flagged for PI. But, I think when I think about the Takers, I think about that Ashton Davis play where it was just beautiful in regards to like playing the correct defense and then being able to speed up and accelerate. Like, to me, it was just an NFL level play. And I'm sure that'll be played on his tape. So, I mean, Takers were fantastic. It was tons of fun to watch. Far more turnovers. We could add more turnovers. I mean, the Herbert fumble when we absolutely crunched that dude, and Oregon thought they were getting back in the game, and goodness, we came over and just wrecked Herbert. He fumbles, and Oregon's so lucky to fall on that football. The one negative of all of the turnovers was that the majority, like they all came in they all came where we had to go drive the majority of the field, and then the offense just couldn't take advantage of that. And it was one of those things. So this actually segues perfectly into my next point, which is I have some serious concerns about the punting game. I think that the punting and field position made this game into a loss. This game had Washington at Berkeley 2018 written all over it. You put the ball back where Herbert and the Oregon offense is in, maybe on their 15 or on their 10. And you remember that Weaver pick six happened when Washington was really backed up. And obviously they put in their backup quarterback, and we know how that went. But I just was waiting for the defense to make that one final play and to actually attach points to it, because the offense wasn't going to get it done. And we've seen it time and time again. I think the biggest Achilles heel to us doing that was the fact that every time we punted, it seemed like we didn't get any hang time on the punt, and it seemed like we were relying on a long bounce. And so what finally happened? The Oregon return man stepped up into the kick, caught it, and then brought it back inside. And then what happens? Oregon scores a touchdown. It just was, I don't know what was going on. I don't know if Stephen Coots is fully healthy, but I thought, given that I had mentioned that I thought he was going to win us a game, this was the type of game that his ability to punt could have won us this game, and it didn't. And special teams overall has been a disappointment this year. So I'm curious if you saw the same thing, but I just sort of felt like that was a huge underlying factor to deciding the outcome of this football game.
Yeah, not only have he had issues with the actual punting, which Coots was injured, he was nicked up, and he, I think, is now starting to get healthy. So maybe the bye week, I think, helps him out a lot. And we kind of forced him out there because of our punting struggles with Longhetto punting the ball, who's not naturally a punter. So yeah, we had some struggles with that. But not only did we have struggles with the actual kicking aspect of it, and we also had issues with Greg Thomas not being able to hit field goals. But if you look at his season and career stats, like, he's pretty much like right at like a little above average college kicker. So I mean, it's not anything too crazy. Like, he's not like missing 50 yarders or 19-yard kicks, but the coverages on punt and kick returns or kickoffs is definitely becoming an issue too, and especially on punt returns, because we let Javon Holland rip one back, and that set up one of their touchdowns. So, like, we can only do so much defensively if they're not given the yards, because the defense is feeling like one of those old school Tedford defenses where they're totally bending, not breaking, and it shows. If you look at the stats, we're giving up a ton of yards, but we're not giving up scores. The streak still continues. We haven't given up a 24 or more points, or more than 24 points to any team. I think this was our 12th game doing that. So, it's basically a season's worth of games where we didn't give up more than 24 points. Like, that's incredible. But you can only do that so often if you're not getting an advantageous field position to be able to work in some of that. Because it's college football, right? Like, there's going to be first downs where you want to get the stop right away to only give them like a yard or an incompletion. But it's also college football. So, Oregon pushed our defensive line around. They got the 2-3 yards on the first down, and now they're in second and 7 or 2nd and 6, and now they have an opportunity to do more things. But if our defense does that, and like, let's say gives them the first down, but then they have more downs to play with, and they decide to be a little bit more aggressive on certain downs, and you get those chances to work yourself with. But you didn't have that this game because we were constantly punting the ball and putting them basically at, I think their average starting position was like somewhere in the like 35, 40 range. You're nearly at halfway or midfield by the time you're starting your drive. So it was it's an issue, but I also think it's something correctable if Coots can get healthy, because it's not like a highly touted punter has come in, like a freshman, right? Like, we know what Coots can do when he's healthy. It's a matter of, is he healthy? And if he's not, can he get healthy in 2 weeks? Which I'm hoping the answer is yes. But I guess I can go off of that and just talk about a negative that I had was the defense is beatable if you have a mobile quarterback. And I'm not talking about a mobile quarterback in the sense of like a true dual threat, like a guy who runs the RPO and pulls often and decides to run on his own. But a guy who can scramble is, I think, the Achilles heel to this defense, because we lock down so well in coverage that if a quarterback is unable to run out of the pocket and extend the play, which you saw Jaden Daniels do, he exploited the defense in a way we hadn't seen before. Because he's now not only a threat moving, but he's also a threat with his eyes down the field and making those throws and extending the plays, which of course we talked about, which breaks down the defensive coverage on the backside. So that's what Herbert kind of did to us on a couple plays where he would move out of the pocket, survey the field, if not, take off and go for the run. We do a great job of stopping the RPO, but we don't do a great job of what we do post a pocket collapse, whether it's the D-line getting to the quarterback or us, stopping a scramble play.
Is that a matter, do you not blame, do you associate that weakness to the entirety of the defense? Or do you associate that weakness to the ineffectiveness of the defensive line?
I think you kind of got to go with both, right? Because it as much as we like to zone in on one, like the defense works as a whole unit. Like if the defensive line gets into the backfield and disrupts a quarterback with QB hurries or with like tip balls, what does that do? That gives your defensive backs and your linebackers a chance to make a play on the ball. On the flip side, if your defensive backs and your linebackers are dropping back into coverage and not letting the opposing quarterback have anywhere to throw, then at that point, he's going to start to panic, which means that your defensive line should get to the quarterback by that time. Like if the defensive backs and everyone in coverage is buying you like 4 or 5 seconds, that should be enough time for the defensive line to disrupt the quarterback. The only thing is, the two quarterbacks that have beaten us has been quarterbacks that come out of the pocket, and then we kind of go into this thing of let's not let them do the Aaron Rodgers thing and let wide receivers beat us over the top. So we keep everything in front, which means either the quarterback has a lane to run for 10, 15 yards, or he finds a wide receiver that's open in that little gap between the linebacker and the safety, or in front of the linebacker. There's a lot more space there. So I think it goes both ways, but I'm looking at who we have on the roster and who's been playing so far, and some guys on the defensive line are playing out of position. So I kind of have to look at the defensive line and go, yeah, that might be where the issue is, because the 2 games we've lost is where the defensive line has been pushed around by the offensive line the most.
Yeah, I think to me the classic play that I'm kind of thinking about is when the quarterback has time to step up in the pocket and maybe leak out a little bit, but then you have the D lineman that kind of closes on them from behind. And I think we had a couple of those plays last season, and we just don't have as many of them this season, for better or for worse. And I think it's hurting right now. So it's just I think I might put a little bit more of an emphasis on it, or a little bit more of assign some of that to the lack of maybe our pass rusher. I just missed having Alex Funchess, dude. He was all over the field, and you'd see his hair waving behind his helmet, and he would just flag guys down. We just don't have as much of that. So maybe to that point, maybe you're right. Maybe it is more of a statement about the defense as a whole than it is about a particular unit. But it is absolutely something we're missing.
All right. Do you have any more points, or should I go with another point?
Yeah, I got my last and final point, actually. So I just want to kind of highlight what I think. Fun fact. This will be fun. I haven't told Rob I'm going to do this. But Rob and I had talked in the offseason about writing an article called Turning Points, where the game sort of changed and where you could go down and isolate a couple of moments. And maybe Rob's going to write something like that, so I just spoiled that for him. And maybe not, but I'm going to try and do that right now. And I think that the one moment in the game that I really looked at and immediately sort of had that feeling of that's something we're going to want back was when Hawkins broke free and Modster missed him by about 4 or 5 yards. And And because it was Hawkins, who's the fastest player on our team, and because the safety was late, which means that he could have hit him in stride, and I think that was probably a touchdown. That to me was the biggest play of maybe the entire game that we missed out on. It would have just been a totally different football game. Yes, I think you could make a good case for one of my other kind of small talking points, which was the Greg Thomas, missed field goal. I'm not necessarily sure I would say I was the one saying go for it there. I was just saying, like, make the field goal. I turned to Stefan, whose bachelor party it was, and I Ducks fan, he's like, is this kicker good? And I was like, yeah, he doesn't miss inside the 40. And what does he do? He misses it. The other one I can't really blame. He got pushed back by a false start penalty, and it was late in the game anyways. But that one, like going up 10-0 versus 7-0, just the whole dynamic, 2-score versus 1-score, I think that was pretty big. But the biggest one for me was that Hawkins throw. And that's the throw that I think Monster probably makes in a couple of weeks. So, hopefully, right? That's the optimist in me saying that that's the one where he just gets more time with it, and and they connect on that. But that play was just like there for the taking, and it was such a bummer that we didn't make that happen.
Yeah, that play was definitely one of the bigger ones. But then, like, that's why I'm optimistic with Monster, because I guess this is my I guess the turning point for me in terms of like my looking at Monster and my eval of him was that throw to Jake Tonjes. Holy crap! That over the shoulder throw where he caught it on a shoulder pad, like, you can't throw that any better. Like, that's an NFL type throw. That we haven't seen that type of throw since probably Jared Goff was here. And that was an incredible throw. And Nick, mentioned this too. He was like, you see Monster make these incredible NFL caliber throws, and then you see him miss these wide open passes by 4 to 10 yards. And I think I'm going to be the optimist here with you and just say, yeah, those 4 to 10 yard plays that he misses, those he gets back when he gets the reps and he understands what wide receivers are going to do when the coverage is broken. And it's just a matter of, like, getting that down with, okay, so now I know on like that play, if the safety comes over too deep or too shallow, and I know Jeremiah is going to cut upfield, that gives him an easier understanding of where to place the ball. Versus this, I think he saw it and he threw it, but he thought Jeremiah could get there, just wasn't fast enough.
Yeah, that's spot on. Totally agree. And I mean, that was it. And it's great to hear kind of like your perspective too, because all I have is the one in the stands, and I think like the Tonjes throw, I have a harder time even of really appreciating that. And so that's the beauty of kind of living in my ignorant bliss, being up there in the as I said, like the 69th row of the stadium of Autzen. Which, by the way, is just an incredible place to watch a football game. And the views were incredible. Oregon is so beautiful. It's so loud. It has this really weird old feel of, like, when you go to an away game, it's kind of like this old, like, Roman Empire vibe where, like, the gladiators are coming in from the different provinces, and then you're in there and everyone's wearing the gear, and it's like you're in enemy territory now. It was just one of those really fun experiences, and at least Autzen, like, everyone was super nice to me this year, as I said before. So, yeah, the stadium experience couldn't have been any better.
I do have a couple last points, and I'll just run through these. And if you want to talk about any of these, I would love to hear your thoughts. But first one is the run defense is definitely still exploitable. I think any run between the tackles, especially for running power, we just can't stop because we just don't have the bodies to do so. The second thing is teams are starting to play away from Evan Weaver, and it's starting to work. I think they're looking at the defense and going, all right, they line up 2 inside linebackers. Let's run a play to the other guy and force him to chase us. And it's forcing Koindeng to learn and, gain experience on the fly. But it's also hurting us because we're giving up more yards in that direction. Third thing is we talked about this, but Monsters definitely improved from the Arizona State game to this Oregon game. And the amount of improvement he made, despite going into enemy territory like that, great. And we're gonna need Kekoa back faster, because I think with Kekoa back, it balances the playmaking across the field. Like, not only do you have Trayvon now on one side, but you have Kekoa on the other, and then you have Jeremiah and Nico kind of running the middle of the field and running those underneath routes. And then you also have a guy like Tonjas who's looking like a pretty solid tight end playmaker. Last thing, having your center go out and having to change centers, and then having a true freshman at right guard at Autzen, recipe for disaster. There's no other way to put it. And we saw that, because we saw Mettauer, with false start after false start and just getting that. The biggest thing is, I don't know if you saw this, but in the game, there was a moment after one of those false starts where Coach Wilcox is basically yelling at the refs. And I think what he was calling for was, he was saying, and the announcers kind of insinuated this too, was that the defensive line was calling out our counts, and that was throwing off our offensive linemen. The only thing is, the closest guy to be able to hear that is the back judge that's sitting basically right in between the linebackers. But Autzen's so loud on the field that you're decently close, but you're not able to hear it. So if they're doing that on the defensive line, they're going to get away with it. And I don't know if you saw that from the field, but that definitely, I think he had a reason to be angry and to complain about that, which I think is a valid point at the very least. But you can't do that in such a loud stadium. But those were my 4-ish final points of discussion, if you wanted to talk about any of those.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine coming in. We talk about how hard it is for a backup quarterback to come in unprepared to a football game, let alone like someone that has to come in at center where you're responsible for calling out. I mean, the center is like calling out all of the defensive alignments and blocking. It's such an important position. It's the one that you couldn't afford to lose, and we did. And we're still competitive. And on top of it, the one point that I think I'd kind of push back on is there was a lot of, I could throw some sunshine your way about the run defense. We looked bad. And then we knocked the starter out of the game, and ever since that point, I think they averaged like 3.4 yards per carry. So there was some room for optimism on that. I started to see like a decent D-line push. We came up with that fourth down stop. I mean, there were some things that started to look pretty good, look better from the run defense. But your point about Coin Dang and running away from Weaver is spot on. I think Weaver had like 6 tackles. It was weird. I remember Weaver making more of an impact in pass coverage than I do tackling. So that was a weird experience. But yeah, everything else you said, I totally agree with. And I think all valid, and it's just one of these weird games. Like, we are kind of resigned right now in the sense like it wasn't a game we necessarily expected to win. Even though, like, I definitely called it a win at the beginning of the year and still had all of the feelings like we were going to go in and win that football game. And I think the team did too. So now it's about how you recover. And we can't go back to 2018 and lose 3 games in a row and then, and wake up. Like, this has to be, like, let's go get 5-2. And then let's cruise into Utah. And let's go upset Utah because their defense isn't nearly as good as Oregon's. And they play a very similar style of football to which we play. If we can go and do that, you start to look at this Cal team being right back to where they were in regards to national relevance, and then setting themselves up to be in a really awesome bowl game, hopefully sometime around New Year's, where we can all go down to San Diego.
I'm down for the Holiday Bowl. I'm down for that. Andy knows all the great spots in San Diego, so I'm just gonna stick to his side and just pay for the Ubers. And wherever he takes me, we're just gonna enjoy ourselves. But hopefully it's San Diego. There was another one that said it was the Red Box Bowl, which would be in Santa Clara, which I kind of like and don't like, just because it's nice, it's close, we can easily get to the game, but at the same time, there's no bit of travel involved, which takes away from like the experience as a whole.
Can you say press box food? Hello, Rob. Are we gonna pass on the Levi Stadium press box experience?
You do have a point. You do have a point there. I'm sure it's great, and I'm sure the press box experience from Levi's is second to none, arguably because it's one of like the 3 or 4 newest like pro arenas in all of the U.S. So, but that's pretty much all I have. Do you have any ending thoughts on this, or are you ready for my spiel on the NIL stuff?
Yeah, go for the speech.
All right, so here's my thing. So SB 206 was passed. It doesn't take effect until 2023. So here's the facts that I have accrued. No school is going to be paying the players. That's a fact. Second thing, the players will only be able to make money off of their name, image, and likeness. So I believe that doesn't mean that they can that doesn't let them still do, selling their like jersey or cleats or any of the equipment and stuff like that they get from the athletics department or their respective schools. But what they can do is, let's say they want to, I don't know, let's say a restaurant somewhere in Berkeley. What can I think of? Top Dog. Let's say Top Dog wants to endorse Christopher Brown Jr. or just use him to promote themselves a little bit. They can set Christopher Brown up to sit in front of Top Dog and to do autographs for like a 2-hour session and pay Christopher Brown to do that. I don't know. There's no details yet on like what he can sign and such. But like it's probably one of those things where if you bring your own things, he'll sign it for you, but they won't have any like Cal, picture or photo or poster ready for him to sign off. Excuse me. So that's how this bill is introduced, and this is going to be across all athletics. So I believe it's not only the men's side of things, but also the women's side of things. So you can imagine like, we have some pretty outstanding female athletes at our university. And I feel like a lot of them can easily be just as well endorsed and used for their name and likeness throughout. Like, can you imagine like when Alex Morgan was here? Or like not even Alex Morgan, like Abby Kim, who's on the women's team, the women's soccer team right now. Like she's amazing. She's on the national team, for crying out loud. So there are people that are gonna benefit from this across the board. Like it's not like just like a men's thing or just a women's thing. Like it's all encompassing. But the question that we got regarding this was that, what are your thoughts on SB 206? How will that affect recruiting at Cal and the Pac-12 in general? The recruiting at Cal, in a perfect world, is that it helps. Because now you're able to make an income off of your likeness within the immediate area. Does that mean you're going to get like a Ford commercial or like an Apple commercial, for nationwide? Probably not, unless you're like a Heisman contender. But you can at least, do it for the neighborhood and the local businesses and whatnot, and be able to do it that way. So yeah, it's going to help the players a lot because it gives them another means of income that's not set standard by what the NCAA has decided to say is the set amount of money you can give to X player across the entire U.S. when standard of living and cost of living is different in every city, let alone every state. So you gotta, there has to be some give there. But the thing that sucks is that we don't know how this is going to play out. This puts more onus on all of the other states and all of the other schools. Because if this does go into actually works and the NCAA decides they can't do anything about it, this gives all the schools in California a crazy recruiting tool. I'm looking at this going, this already starts a recruiting process for you right now. Because what does that mean? If the bill comes into pass in 2023, you could pitch to the recruits right now that are seniors in high school saying, hey, by your senior year, you're going to be able to make money off of your image and likeness. Like, you're going to be able to do it. And now they can talk to the 2021 kids. And they're like, yeah, by your junior year, you're going to be able to sell your image and likeness and make money off of that throughout, the Bay Area and areas like that. The only thing here that I'm concerned with is if this becomes a national thing, the only issue I have is how do you regulate where the money is going and how it's getting to them? Like not in the sense of like how much they're paying, but like, is it just, is it like an under the table thing or like a shadow deal that we've seen, happen across college athletics already, where, it's basically in a weird sense, like funneling money, right? Like you're paying the player, but like you're paying them through a legitimate business. So does that become unfair recruiting advantages? Like if you're a top tier college football program and you have the donors that are willing to front it, and let's say a donor has, like a cupcake shop in front of the university, and they decide to use one of the recruits as the photo for their year. Like they sign a contract saying like, yeah, for the first year that you're here on campus, like we'll pay you X amount of money for using your face across the board. Like, does that become like a recruiting tool that's like not really beneficial to the player, but more used as a way to entice these players to come to those universities? That's where the iffy thing starts. But all in all, this is great for the players, because if this passes and it goes to becoming a nationwide thing, these guys are finally going to be able to make just a sliver of the portion of finances that are available in college athletics outside of the NCAA. So those are my thoughts on it. Andy, if you've got any thoughts, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think the one question I have, damn, I've been doing the counterpoint tonight, is that I wonder if coaches are really gonna recruit off of it without really understanding it. Is it like one of those things that you could get in trouble with by sort of talking to something that maybe isn't quite real yet, or you don't really have a full understanding of how it's going to be implemented? So when I think about the recruiting class, I guess when you're talking to 2021, I just think like I wonder how much of it they're really going to be able to talk to at this point in time, because what we've seen is I don't even know if the conference. I don't think the conference has any idea what the real impact is. You can kind of tell in their statement, but great, super thorough analysis on it, and I do expect it to have a big spill, or I guess like downstream impact on the rest of college football. So I know that I believe the state of Pennsylvania is introducing a similar bill, and I think maybe there's another state in there that I'm leaving out. So that will be really important in kind of how it manifests itself now across the country, now that California has kind of taken that first step. And it was really cool how Gavin Newsom, I thought it was really cool how he did it. He, went on the Barbershop on HBO and like signed it with LeBron and, former college players. And I just thought like the way that it was handled in regards to the topic of conversation was all really relevant, and it was all done with a lot of player perspective. And it's always fascinating to get that. So those are my thoughts, and I'll kind of leave you with those.
All right. That's pretty much it. That's our Bearcast for the week. As Andy said, you can look out for us with another podcast coming later this week with a very, very special guest. I'll say this. It was so much fun recording that podcast, which we did right before recording this. And it was so insightful that, I'm already wanting to get him back onto the podcast already. But Andy, if you want to leave a little teaser.
I already left my teaser. You guys are going to have to go back and find that little nugget of gold. That's the only one I'm leaving.
All right. Well, as always, you can find us on Twitter at CGB Bearcast. So follow us, tweet at us, send us questions or comments or topics that you want us to talk about and answer during the game, before the game, after the game. We'll just aggregate all of those. So don't feel free to tweet at us. You can find me at Rob11HWNG. You can find Andy at
Andy J Beast Mode.
And you can find all our stuff at CaliforniaGoldenBlogs.com. And I think that's about it. So there's no game this week, but the Oregon State game, which is homecoming game, with an Oski bobblehead giveaway for the first 10,000 fans, is slated for an 11:30 a.m. kickoff, a very early kickoff on Pac-12 Network. So if you're in the area, please come out. It's going to be a great time, and it's an early game, so you pretty much get the rest of your day. We'll be out by 4. We'll be out by 2. So you'll have the entire day to yourself after the game or before the game, if you want to get up earlier, I guess. But yeah, and that's it. And so as always, go Bears.
Go Bears.